Okay, so there has been a long while that I have been experimenting on what are the best unit for Eastern Doctrine to use in Conflict of Nation WW3. Right now, I'm playing as Mozambique, and it is a Eastern Doctrine country. For information, Eastern Doctrine typically has buff on MBT, Special Forces, like the Special Forces, MBT, Main Battle Tank, tow artillery, SAM launchers, and that's about it. And also not to mention motorized infantry. For special forces, you rarely use them because they are only useful in occasions. The main problem compare when we are saying about buff on Eastern Doctrine compared to Western Doctrine and Usual Doctrine is the biggest buff is on main battle tank. Now, main battle tank is a melee tank unit. Of course, when in one-to-one confrontation, main battle tank will usually be very tanky and also a menace. But the problem with main battle tank is one of the problem with main battle tank is that it's very slow. It's very slow. For other doctrine is like 1.0 speed, and for Eastern doctrine is 1.1 speed. Not to mention you cannot airlift it. You cannot airlift it until it is level 3, which makes it quite impossible for you to use this unit when you want to transport it. It takes a lot of time. Unlike the main buff for Western Doctrine and European Doctrine, what is good for Western Doctrine and European Doctrine is that their main buff is on jets. Western Doctrine has the main buff on air superiority fighter, which allow Western Doctrine to have air dominance easily, while for European Doctrine they have higher HP on their strike fighters, which allows them to conquer or even counter attack easily using the strike fighters. So having jets are very useful because air forces allows you to use them wherever you need them the most. That is the advantage of playing Western Doctrine and European Doctrine. You can use jets and you can use them anywhere, and you can also summon your jets to wherever you need. For example, if you need them to invade and your jets are in your southern area of your nation, you can move them to the northern part. Or suddenly you're attacked by another nation from the western side. Okay, you can mobilize your jets to counter attack. That's the best part for jets because of its speed and its versatility. For Eastern Doctrine, there is no such luxury. The Eastern Doctrine don't have jets that are buff. They have standardized jets. So when used against Western and also European Doctrine jets, they will lose in most situations unless you outnumber them. So it's not it's not a bad thing since Eastern Doctrine still is still provided with units to deal with these jets like SAM launchers. So the good thing about Eastern Doctrine is that they deal more damage to jets by using SAM launchers. This is good, but having jets is way more beneficial since you can just mobilize them early game and they'll be useful throughout the game. But SAM launchers is useless early game on. It will show its effectiveness and also usefulness in mid or late game. So by building SAM launchers early game is not beneficial to Eastern Doctrine country. So that's the tricky part for Eastern Doctrine. What should I build in early game in order to start strong? In order to start strong to make sure that I can invade and also defend my country effectively. So I have been experimenting a bit. Ideally, no matter you are in Western Doctrine, European Doctrine, and also Eastern Doctrine, you should have three different type of forces: air forces, naval forces, and also land forces. As an Eastern Doctrine, you don't have the you don't have the advantage of invasion since you don't have jets. The only thing you have is MBT, and MBT kind of suck, to be honest. They are slow as hell. You don't have jets. You have gunship helicopters. Gunship helicopters is useful from time to time, but they have limited range compared to jets. So unless your main A base is near to like for example, if I'm playing Mozambique here, this is my HQ, I have my A base. Not this one. This is the one. This is the A base. So I have my helicopter here. I have my helicopter here. So if I want to use my helicopter to invade South Africa, it is doable when it is near enough. South Africa, but South 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is the original South African territory. As you can see, usually helicopters is not able to cover the entire country that you are attacking. So usually jets, they have enough range to cover the entire area. For example, look at this. In this case, there is one that is left out, but for the most part, you can cover the entire nation that you are invading when you are using jets. So, in my opinion, helicopters are mostly useful in defense instead of offense. So, helicopters can be used for offense, but not ideal lah. But helicopters, when you are when you mobilize it, it can deal with enemy troops very effectively, especially in early game, because in early game most of the troops are infantry, and in some cases if they use recon armor vehicles to attack, because at the start of the game each nation is given 1 or 2 recon armor vehicles, combat recon vehicles. Okay, sorry, my mistake. So using gunship helicopter, you can defend against invasion. That is one of the good things. But after that, after defending against invasion, it is kind of difficult to use gunship helicopters for offense, since if you want to advance further, you need to build airports, which is a hassle to build, a hassle to do. So, looking at the buff Eastern Doctrine provide, there is not much buff provided for on units to offense. Not much buff on units to go for offense. Look at the buff other than main battle tank. Special forces is not very useful because you cannot research it on day one. Tow artillery is also not very useful because it sucked. Don't ask me why it sucked. It just sucked in general because it's not only is considered as soft target, and it also moves very slowly. If you do not believe me, look at this. Tow artillery, one speed value, and when it's level 3, it's also one speed value. It's very annoying to use tow artillery until you reach 8 assault or a level 2 tow artillery, and you can elevate, but it's very annoying to use. So tow artillery, I just don't recommend it. Mobile artillery may be useful. It has a faster research. You need lesser time to research mobile artillery, but I don't understand that why European Doctrine has better buff on mobile artillery. I feel like better infantry damage and also bigger HP is way better than than being able to research mobile artillery earlier. I think this is a bigger buff. So I don't know. MA is not like very useful. SAM launchers is always useful, but it's not useful in early game. Gunship helicopter is very good in defense, like I said earlier. While the others, not very significant, to be honest. So as you can see, Eastern Doctrine is not good for offense. It is better suited. It's better suited for defense. So, typically, Eastern Doctrine, you would want to go for defense early game by producing a lot of units defending your own cities, in my opinion. And then at the meantime, try to build out your economy by building army bases, and also increase your morale if you have extra economy to build to increase your resource production. That's the first thing you need to do as Eastern Doctrine countries. Now, as a nation in conflict nation, you still need to invade other countries. So what are the units you should invest in order to invade other nations? Since all the units that are buffed by Eastern Doctrine are more suited for defense. So I have been experimenting a lot with Eastern Doctrine. I mean, not a lot. Like I have been experimenting using a lot of units. I feel like since Eastern Doctrine is more suited for defense, I feel like a more jack of all trade kind of unit is more suited for Eastern Doctrine. For example, naval strike fighter. Of course, if you use naval strike fighter to fight against European strike fighter, you will lose. But you shouldn't do that. You just shouldn't do that. If let's say like let's just say if you are really fighting against European strike fighter, you should be building SAM launchers in order to counter that. But let's just say if that's not the case, and you have, for example, maybe mostly usually Eastern Doctrine will be their neighboring country will be also Eastern Doctrine. Okay, Eastern Doctrine. If your neighboring country are Western or European, you should be considering building SAM launchers after building a few infantries. Okay, so what are the advantages of building naval strike fighter for offense and also for defense? First thing is that naval strike fighters they have the same characteristic as a strike fighter. They can deal damage to soft targets and also hard targets. That means when the opponents or when the enemies are invading, no matter what type of army from the infantry tab or the armor tab, you will be able to deal with them effectively. The only thing you should be afraid of is uh, infantry accompanied by anti-air. That is the most scary thing. But anti-air is typically not used unless the enemy has some sort of armor. Typically, according to pattern, they will research some armor first before investing into mobile anti-air. Because mobile anti-air alone is not great for invasion since it deal not that much damage on infantry and also armor units. So they typically will go for armor first. But uh, I will mention this in later part of the video. What happens when the enemies is stacked with armor, infantry, and also mobile anti-air? That is the tricky part for. It is quite tricky to deal with this kind of stack, but this I will what I'm saying. But I will mention this in the later part of the video. But for early game, typically they will invest in armor in most situations. With that, you can use naval strike fighter. Of course, it requires airbase level 3. It's a little bit expensive, but you can go for strike fighter first with airbase level 2 in order to have some air control. Then only you invest into naval strike fighter. So naval strike fighter is very useful. Like I said, you can deal with soft targets and also hard targets. Not only that, you can also use this unit to deal with helicopters. As for jets, you should be able to deal same amount of damage unless they are using air superiority fighter. If they are using air superiority fighter, then you have to build SAM launchers. Okay. Other than that, naval strike fighters can deal with strike fighters very well. Okay, one of the advantage of naval strike fighter is that it can also deal a significant amount of damage to surface vessels. Unlike strike fighters, it can only deal a little amount. So one thing you should be afraid of when you are playing defensively is that not only you have to deal with the enemy troops from the land, and you also need to deal with the troops coming to your port. That is a problem when you are playing in defense. So by having naval strike fighter actually solve that. By having naval strike fighter, you are able to deal with the land troops very effectively, and also if they are invading through your ports, you can attack them. Especially when they are just a transport unit. Transport unit does no damage to naval strike fighters, so you can effectively sink their ship. And by having naval strike fighter, you can effectively just substitute naval patrol aircraft. Naval patrol aircraft, they can only deal damage to ships and also submarines. But By having naval strike fighters, you effectively it's not more effective than naval patrol aircraft lah, but the versatility of a naval strike fighters in land, in sea, and also its high damage output is worth researching in early game for Eastern Doctrine countries. Of course, if you choose not to invest further, it's fine as well. But having naval strike fighters is very very useful in early game for Eastern Doctrine, in my opinion. Okay, after having naval strike fighters, the other the other thing that you should be considering is your naval units. You still need you you still need some naval units to deal with naval. You cannot rely solely on naval strike fighters to deal with naval units. What happens when the enemy start researching frigates? Your naval strike fighters will be dead. Definitely. So after researching naval strike fighters, you should be I mean me lah. I myself will start researching into some ships. You can go for corvette or frigates or whatever. It's fine, as long as it's some ship. But me personally, I would go for frigates because first thing they have anti-air. They serve as an alternative for the early game anti-air. Sorry, what did I just say? First thing, you can park your frigates at your port so that your enemy won't be able to attack your port easily or send troops into your port easily. Another thing very good about frigates is that they have anti-air. It can serve as an alternative anti-air to SAM launchers early game. So in early game, you shouldn't research SAM launchers in general. In general lah, unless your enemy is very strong on air forces in jets, then only you research SAM launchers. Otherwise, I would often go for frigates, since it deals significant amount of damage to jets and also a little bit amount to helicopters, and it can also block the port to prevent the enemy troops from invading. So it's very useful. After I have researched frigates, I will mass produce them and try to get to level 2 since it has a better anti-air coverage. Okay, usually when you have finished researching frigates and also start producing some, it is typically day 8 or day 9. Day 8 or day 9. In some situations, some of the enemy will start researching destroyer or cruiser, and frigates are not very good against destroyer or cruisers. So, but don't worry, the units that you researched earlier will get you covered. Since destroyer and cruiser, they are not very good against jets, so you have nothing to worry about. Oh, even if your enemy decided to attack you with destroyer or cruiser, you have the naval strike fighters to deal with them. So typically, it's nothing to worry about. Uh, Also, if your enemy decide to use frigates to attack you as well, not destroyer, not cruiser, you have your own frigates as a response. So you won't be too worried. And also, if your frigates really did suffer from a lot of damage, you can use your naval strike fighter as a backup. Even though your naval strike fighters you suffer quite a bit of damage, but if you deal a little bit of damage uh, to frigates, after that you may need to heal your naval strike fighter for a bit lah by building hospital like me, like that lah. So after building your frigates, you realize that you should be able to realize that frigates is sort of a problem. Frigate is sort of a problem, and you cannot use naval patrol aircraft to deal with them. Of course, you can use your own frigates to deal with them, but it's not an ideal way to deal with frigates lah. So after finish researching frigates, I myself will personally go for submarine because submarine it is better suited to deal with ships, except for destroyer. Okay, except for destroyer. Also, it can also deal a significant amount of damage to the scariest ship in conflict of nation, which is cruiser. So building attack submarine is like a double. How to say? It's a security against naval army. So by building attack submarine, in is by building attack submarine, you basically secure yourself from naval attacks. Not to mention, if you level it high enough, you will be able to launch cruise missile. Of course, you won't be able to launch one now like in early or mid game. You have to research the guided missile program and also cruise missile in order to launch missiles. But for the most part, by building attack submarine after frigates, you get will secure you from any naval attacks uh, in early game to mid game. Okay, so after you build your submarine, one thing that is you should be worried about is that the enemy may build a lot of tanks. They may be building a lot of MPT or armor fighting vehicles. That is something that I myself is very afraid of. Of course, if they are building just tanks, it's fine. But when they are accompanied by mobile anti-air or SAM launchers, that is the scariest. That is one of the scariest stack. You have no answer for it because I myself have been depending on naval strike fighters and also frigates in order to defend my hometown city. Hometown city like homeland cities. And you can also you also won't be able to use your gunship helicopters to defend against that unless they're using SAM launchers. Maybe then you can deal some damage but not a lot since it's more specialized against infantry, but it's still not enough damage to kill off SAM launchers. SAM launchers plus tank combination. Even worse if they are using mobile anti-air. So when the enemy is using a stack of tank and also mobile anti-air, you must have some sort of response. Ideally, also your own tank unit because you won't be able to use your ship because if it's on land you cannot do anything, and you also cannot use your air force because it has mobile anti-air. So the only thing you can do is that you have your own tank. Of course, you can also invest in mechanized infantry, but I feel like mechanized infantry not as good lah. Mechanized infantry is not as good and it's a soft target as well. So among all of these tank, combat record is like it should be in day 10 or day 14 now. So combat record vehicle is the one that you shouldn't be considering. So armor fighting vehicle, amphibious combat vehicle, main battle tank, and also tank destroyer. I already mentioned how bad main battle tank is, so I feel like not to mention it's expensive. It's the most expensive tank unit among the 5. So this is not ideal. Main battle tank is not ideal despite the buff. I'm not gonna lie. So it's not ideal at all. Tank destroyer, on the other hand, might be useful against tanks and it has a very high damage against tanks. So for people or for players who prefer a specialized tank destructive, tank destroyer basically, you can opt for this unit. But personally, I don't like this unit because you need to research it 4 times in order to be airlifted. I don't like that. I prefer my units can be transferred from one area to the other area easily. So tank destroyer, of course, it can deal very well with tanks. And it also have buff in urban and suburban area. So it's very effective when you are putting your tank destroyer in your cities. There is one good thing about it. Just that personally, I don't like tank destroyer when I'm playing as Eastern Doctrine. Of course, when you are playing as European Doctrine, it's very good. But as an Eastern Doctrine country, it's not as good because you can only airlift it in day 17. That is very slow. I don't like it. Same goes to armor fighting vehicle. You cannot airlift it in level 1. You have to airlift. You can only airlift it in level 2, and it requires 4 different upgrades in order. Including this one, 4 different research costs in order to get to level 2 and airlift it. I don't like it at all. And also, it doesn't have buff in cities. It has buff on jungles like in defense, but it has buff in the desert. But in most situations, you are afraid that the enemy is invading into your cities. That is the so tank destroyer will be more advantageous compared to armor fighting vehicles in most situations. For me, armor fighting vehicle will be the third option if I want to use a tank when playing as an Eastern Doctrine country. Tank destroyer will be the second. Main battle tank, no, it's too bad. It's too. I don't know what to say. Not to mention, main battle tank has decreased attack and also defense in the cities. It's so bad. I don't understand why this unit exists. For the tank I would offer when playing as an Eastern Doctrine country is amphibious combat vehicle. Okay, I'm not opting for amphibious combat vehicle for its amphibious trait, although it does come in handy from time to time. But what I like about this vehicle is that the first thing is that it only requires 3 research. Uh, you only need to research it 3 times in order to be airlift. There is one thing, it saves resources. This is the first point, and also it can be upgraded quite quickly because I mean it's the same point lah. First thing, being able to upgrade to level 2 by researching only 3 times compared to others which requires 4 times. There are 2 things that you achieve. One is you save resources. The second thing is it saves time. Researching does take time, so by being able to save time and resources, that achieve a lot. Okay, not achieve a lot, like that save you a lot of time and also brings you some advantage when playing Conflict of Nation. Not to mention, it's even though it doesn't have buff in urban and suburban area, but by being in urban and suburban area, you already have some defense. For example, incoming damage reduced by 25%. Unlike main battle tank, you have debuff. Even though if main battle tank is stay in cities, the incoming damage will also be reduced by 25%, which will negate the debuff here. But why? I don't understand why this doesn't make sense. I just don't, and also main battle is also expensive compared to any other tanks. So okay, coming back to amphibious combat vehicle, if you don't want to park your amphibious combat vehicle in your cities, you can park them in jungle or forest. You will receive a buff. For example, right now I don't have a an example, but if you park your, let me see if there are no examples. So if you park your amphibious combat vehicle in, like for example, forest or even jungle, you receive a buff, and that is very beneficial, especially when you can predict your enemy's path to attack. For example, let's say, especially when it is in jungle, for example, if you can predict, for example, if Ethiopia want to for example, not Ethiopia lah, Ethiopia can lah. Okay, let's say there's a troop in Lamu that wants to attack into my territory. I can predict that it's coming towards here, so I can send my amphibious combat vehicle into a jungle territory. It doesn't have to be in the middle of jungle territory. It can be right here. I will receive the buff, and if I advance my amphibious combat vehicle forward, I will gain a 50% on attack. That is very significant. So in defense, it's 25%. It's like a standard. So amphibious combat vehicle is mostly used outside of the city, and I need a tank that can be used outside of the city, not stay inside the city. So that's why I don't prefer. I don't like tank destroyer, because you only receive buff in cities. I don't like it. If like that, I'm waiting. I'm only waiting for the enemy to attack me. Then only I can deal a significant amount of damage to the enemy. I don't like that. So by having amphibious combat vehicle, I can make a response. I mean like a counter attack, a counter attack to the enemy forces. So I like amphibious combat vehicle more in general. Not to mention it can be airlifted in level 2, and also it can move to places quicker by having amphibious trait. Also, this is a bonus lah. Amphibious combat vehicle has scout ability. That means it's same to combat recon vehicle. That means you can identify what are the exact troops in enemy unit when when the enemy unit come into range. So for example, if you are using mobile, I don't have an example here, but for example, if you are moving, let's say this is a troop. There's a insurgent here. insurgent here. But if you are moving only motorized infantry very slowly, you'll be able to see red mark that there is an unidentified infantry unit in this city, but you won't be able to tell what are the exact number and what type of troop is inside the city. But by having combat recon vehicle, you'll be able to tell as soon as the enemy unit come into the range of the sight range. So you'll be able to identify and scout using amphibious combat vehicle as well. This is some bonus by having this unit, but it's from time to time it's quite useful. So by having amphibious combat vehicle, you have your land troop ready. Okay, so by having to recap, by having naval strike fighters, frigates, attack submarine, and also your amphibious combat vehicle, you are pretty much set. You have your air force, you have your land force, you have your naval force. Oh, here's an example. Just now I mentioned it. Now, for example, this mountain infantry is going into this city right here. You won't be able to tell what type of city. I know, of course, I know this is an insurgent because it's an insurgent city. But in an enemy city, you won't be able to tell what type of troops that he is using, especially when they have tanks or whatever, or aircraft, or I don't know, like any other thing, and especially the number of units he has. By having by amphibious combat vehicle, you will be able to tell how many type of what are the type of troop the enemy has, and also the number. So you'll be able to make a judgment call on whether you want to continue attack the city or not. That is very handy in my opinion. Okay, back to what I was saying. By having you have all these troops which cover your land force, air force, and also a naval force. So that is very good. That is good enough. That is a pathway that I would take whenever I'm playing as Eastern Doctrine. Okay, the one thing I would like to mention when playing as Eastern Doctrine is that you should. I myself, that I would personally fully research my motorized infantry. Why? Because Eastern Doctrine, this is a shit that I'm not sure if it is updated because the last updated in 2020, but it says here that Eastern Doctrine has a can fully research motorized infantry in the shorter amount of time. For those who don't know, for those of you who don't know, motorized infantry is a very special infantry compared to all other infantry units. Why? Level 1 and level 2 is not very different from other infantry unit, but when it comes to level 3, let me show level 2 first. Level 2, it doesn't have attack range as you can see here. But when you research it to level 3, it has an attack range of 20. What does that mean? So basically that means you will not need your motorized infantry to be a melee range with your enemy units in order to start damaging them. That means you can start attack the enemy units with a motorized infantry at a range, and you won't suffer from any sort of damage. That is very big. In my opinion, that is very big. That's why for Eastern Doctrine country, you all should be aiming to get is motorized infantry. Start researching motorized infantry level 3 on day 20, and you'll be able to get a range unit in like day 21. This is very significant. That means you'll be able to advance much faster. That is very significant. So these are in general, these are the units I would go for when I'm playing as Eastern Doctrine country. Right now I'm researching, as you can see, I'm researching my amphibious combat vehicle, because I have just finished researching my attack submarine. I'm building my cord. How many 2 hours left, so I will be able to build attack submarine very soon. But this game is quite tricky since different game in different game you need a different response. Now is overkill 1 times. That means it's a real time game. It's day 14 and somebody managed to research ballistic missiles, and that is very scary. I need to build theater defense system immediately. Let me show you. Look at this. Morocco managed to research ballistic missiles. Like, what the hell? It's only day 14. As you can see here, it has a naval base level 4, but not in order to get to launch a missile, you need to research guided missile program and then ballistic missiles. And in order to make the launcher, you must have a secret lab level 3. I can usually nobody would go for secret lab level 3. Nobody. So and I see a level 4 naval base here. It is highly likely that he already has one secret level 1 on this city and produce ballistic missile submarines. Since ballistic missile submarines require naval base level 4 and also secret weapon level 1. So I think he rushed for the ballistic missile submarine, and it does it quite well. He managed to conquer France and also Portugal and Spain. So he is advancing in a very rapid pace. Even though his economy is not quite good at the moment, but he will catch up very soon. He's only he's in the lead now. I'm the second. So his ballistic missile is very scary. Especially, I don't have a answer for ballistic missiles for now. So after getting my like I said earlier, different game you need to respond differently according to your enemy. So after I have unlocked my own amphibious combat vehicle, I may consider upgrading my army base as soon as possible to get tiered defense system. Because otherwise, I don't want my army to be decimated by one stupid ballistic missile. Okay, I need to get one as soon as possible. Of course, I can go for another option is by upgrading frigates to level 3 so that it has a better damage on missiles. By having three frigates, I will be able to deal 50 3 right 3. By having three frigates, I will be able to deal how much is this? This is level 3, right? Level 3. 13. That is still not enough. Okay, never mind. I'll go for theater defense theater defense system. Even though it will take some time to build theater defense system, since I'm only at army base level 2, so it will take some time. And for army base for theater defense system, you need level 5. There is a huge lot of investment. But anyway, that's that. So if you want to just another tip, if you want to conserve, if you have way too much money and you have nothing to spend them on, you can go for mercenaries. Mercenaries is basically expendable. So right now I'm not in a spot to go for mercenaries because I need to get theater defense system as soon as possible. I don't want to get blasted by missiles. So if not, you can go for mercenaries. Mercenaries, they are very good, especially when you are using them to attack. My recommendation is that you should go. You should no, this doesn't matter like if whatever doctrine you are in, no matter you're Western, European, or Eastern, you should the sweet spot for mercenary is you should get them to what is this research it to the not third level, research it until here lah. Don't research it to the second level because its upkeep is quite expensive. I mean not upkeep lah, not upkeep is quite expensive. Its cost to mobilize is quite expensive. But if you only research it until to this point, the cost to make one remains the same. For example, mercenary, the starter mercenary requires 3,000 and also 3,000 cash and also this amount of manpower to mobilize it. When looking at here, it's the same cost. So you are gaining. Okay, compared to level 2, it's way more expensive to mobilize one mercenary. So having buff but remaining the same cost is very beneficial when you are advancing and also resource management. Even though the daily upkeep is a bit more expensive lah, but that is negligible in my opinion because, for example, you have 10 this level of mercenary. So the daily upkeep will be 2,300 cash and also 700 manpower. So you should be able to, by day 14, day 14 you should have the resources to produce that much cash and also manpower. So it's not a problem. But my my goal for mercenary is that you'll be able to make 2 stacks of them, or as many stacks as possible, because they are expandable. It's not like motorized infantry that you'll be or motorized infantry or jets or any armor amphibious combat vehicle or any tanks or any ships that you are afraid to lose, because this thing requires only cash and manpower to mobilize. Unlike any other units, you need maybe supplies, components, electronics, and also sometimes rare material. For example, attack submarine, you need rare material to mobilize them. So this thing is very cheap, and you should use them to attack, and don't be afraid to how to say, sacrifice them wherever you need to, but because its ROI rate is very high, and it can be easily manufactured. I mean, not manufactured lah, easily mobilized and also reproduced. So mercenary, if you want if you want to go for a suicide mission and also cut down the enemy forces by sacrificing your own units, mercenary is the units to go. Doesn't matter if it's against hard targets or soft targets. Soft targets, ideally is soft targets because it deals a lot of damage to soft targets. Even for hard targets, it can deal a lot of damage when you are using it just for the sake of sacrificing, and when you are using it just for the sake of whittling down your enemy units. Then only you send in your combat vehicles to attack them. That is very useful. In my opinion, mercenary is very very useful. But that is just my opinion. So that's the end on how I think Eastern Doctrine countries should prepare their troops or units. Of course, this is all just my opinion. I'm still experimenting, so I welcome if there are any different opinions from different com players. Because I have been experimenting only Eastern Doctrine. I have not played. Actually, I'm not trying to play Western and European Doctrine because they are their playstyle is already predetermined, and also not predetermined lah, but it's mostly explore. So I would like to try something different. Otherwise, it will be the same type of playstyle, going for air superiority fighter and then go for strike fighter. It's a playstyle that is predictable, but when playing as Eastern Doctrine, you are playing something a little bit different, and there is something that is very good about playing as Eastern Doctrine, which I like a lot. Experimenting something new. So if you all have any other opinions or any other things you would like to add on, you can comment down below. And this is the first com video I have ever made, and also one of the not one of the lah, but it's the first video I have made on YouTube. So I would like to post more video on YouTube, so, and also share my ideas on things that I know, not only just Conflict of Nations, and anything that is that I know of. Also, this is a channel where I play games mostly. If you are interested in maybe storytelling, which I haven't uploaded videos yet, I'm planning to upload some animation with story that I have experienced before. So if you are interested in storytelling or any animation or storytelling, you can go to look into that channel. So also you can support me by like and subscribe to this channel and also video, also or that channel. Either way will do. So this give me motivation to continue making videos lah. As I think that's about it. So have fun playing Conflict of Nation, and I hope that my video and my thought process actually help you to build an army when you are playing as Eastern Doctrine country. And that's all for today.